that was a good idea to start using intro videos that are like, it just gets me in a good mind state. Hope you're doing well. I'm a simple man. I like simple things. I like a nice beat that has a nice build up. Let's get into this. This is one of the most like classic studies in the history of psychology, and it's looking at this idea of like how much the people around you affects your decision making, and if we can actually manipulate that experimentally. So Solomon Asch in 1951 did this classic experiment called the Asch Conformity experiment. Here I have it. The Asch Conformity experiment. For your notes, you might want to put Solomon Asch is his first name, Solomon. And this was in 51, but he did it kind of throughout the 50s. But 51 would be your reference date as to when it kind of starts. Hope you're doing well again. You know, I love you all, and love doing this class. And Evie's upstairs. I just watched an incredible video actually with her between her Zooms. We're learning about animals and about it's called like the incredible biology of the octopus, and that they don't actually have a brain, but they're incredible intelligence. And anyways, I just thought there's actually a part that I might clip out and show in this class just because it was so excellent and interesting. Okay, here we go. Anyways, that was completely unrelated. Asch Conformity experiment.
But an experiment is not a public opinion poll. It examines behavior under the pressure of social forces, as the experiment of Solomon Asch reveals.
The experiment you'll be taking part in today involves the perception of lengths of lines. As you can see here, I have a number of cards, and on each card there are several lines. Your task is a very simple one. You're to look at the line on the left and determine which of the three lines on the right is equal to it in length. All right, we'll proceed in this order. You'll give your answer.
Only one of the people in the group is a real subject, the fifth person with the white t-shirt.
Okay, so the fifth person, I just wanted to, if it was this guy. So this person here is the one that the whole experiment is on. If you can't see my cursor, the one second from the right, the guy with the white short t-shirt. So everybody else is an actor. So what we're going to try to do in this scenario is like, can we change this one guy's responses by manipulation of the others? And I know that you've probably come across this, right? Especially if you're like a third or fourth year psych student, you probably watched this in Psych 101. But how this links in is really key, because it's not just that people start to change when other people around them change. It's also that that spell can be broken relatively easily. That when there's this not group psychosis, that's going too far, but when there's, in some scenarios, that is what it is. But when there's this group hypnosis is the word that I meant to say. Had a little Freudian slip. When there's this hypnosis around, like, oh, you're saying everything, and then all of a sudden somebody says that the emperor has no clothes. It has this immediate cognitive reset, recalibration effect on the one person that's not an actor in this situation.
The others are confederates of the experimenter and have been told to give wrong answers on
in this scenario. Confederate means someone that goes along with, so it's like the actors.
Some of the trials. The experiment begins uneventfully as subjects give their judgments.
Two.
Right, so this couldn't be more basic. It's like, here's a line, and then here's three lines over here. This line that's separated from those ones, which one is it the most close to in length? A, B, or C? Or 1, 2, and 3, or whatever. And then I go through and I get all of you to answer.
2. 3.
But on the third trial, something happens.
2. 2.
The subject denies the evidence of his own eyes and yields to group influence. Asch found subjects went along with the group on 37% of the critical trials. But he found through interviews that they went along with the group for different reasons.
1.
They must be right. There are 4 of them and 1 of me.
1.
This subject's yielding is based on a distortion of his judgment. He genuinely believes that the group is correct.
1.
2.
1. 2.
2.
2.
I know they're wrong, but why
Two.
should I make waves?
2.
In this case, the subject knows he is right, but goes along to avoid the discomfort.
You see that this old school video? See how it like added that audio to be the guy's thought? I think they're wrong, but I don't want to make waves. But interesting, right? Because it's like later studies in the video we're going to look at later is in or different time is like taking this further, but at a certain point it's like there's ways people can be making the wrong decision. They can actually have the influence of other people affect their actual perception, making them actually be making logical errors, or they can be knowing that they're saying the wrong thing but wanting to go along, and it can be like a social cohesive pressure, right? So it's like and there's a really interesting study by Sharif we're going to look at later that's like looking at like what parts of the brain are involved in this kind of stuff. Does the group pressure actually make you see it different? Or do you just knowingly go along? And there's the complicated answer is that there's a little bit of both.
Of disagreeing
2.
with the group. Here, the distortion is at the level of his response.
2. 2. 2. 2.
Right, so I kind of talked over him there, sorry, but he said there the distortion was at the level of response, right? Because he's like, I don't think it's that, but I don't want to make waves. So it's like, if you were to say, what did that individual do wrong? What he did wrong was what he said. He actually, in his own mind, read the situation correctly, knew it was wrong, but then responded as if, see what I mean? So there's two questions going on. Are you doing it because of the pressure, or are you doing it because you're actually seeing it that way? And Sharif's experiments that come later kind of really break that part down.
In the previous experiment, the naive subject stood alone against the group. In this variation, Asch gave the naive subject a partner, here seated in the third position, who also gives the correct response.
Okay, so now what we do is same thing, but instead of everyone except the person that we're studying giving the wrong answer, we add one person that gives the right answer. So say you're the person in the experiment, and you go in there and it seems like everyone's saying the wrong thing. But then there's one other person that's like, no, it's actually 2. And that's what you actually think it is. Now all of a sudden, do you get like a little bit more confidence in your interpretation? Are you a little bit less influenced by the pressure? So what role does one person counter the group narrative have on the subject in the experiment?
1.
1. 2.
1.
2.
With a partner, yielding drops to only 5% of the critical
now
trials
we're looking
compared to
at these two
37% without a partner. Although subjects report
3 and
warmth
5.
and good feeling toward the partner, they typically deny that he played a role in their own independence.
So that's such an important piece of psychology right there. So that if you do this study, what you find is, so say I'm the one that's being studied initially, then you bring someone in and they start giving an answer that is what I'm actually thinking. And then I start being more honest. And then you ask me later, what effect did that person have on me? I would be likely to think that person had almost no effect on me, but I actually like that person. It's interesting that that's how people interpreted it.
The partnership variation shows that much of the power of the group came not merely from its numbers, but from the unanimity of its opposition.
That there's
When
no
that unanimity is
backtalk.
punctured, the group's power is greatly reduced.
When everybody saying the same words is punctured, the power is reduced. He said it a bit different, but
Sometimes we go along with the group because what they say convinces us they are right. This is called informational conformity. But sometimes we conform because we...
okay, so he's saying, I was going to throw that word up for you. So he's saying there's informational conformity, right? Which would be in a situation, oh darn, and then it has the
are apprehending
place play pause right over it, but I think you can still see it for spelling, and you can all spell that word. But informational conformity is like, let me just back up one sec here.
This is called informational conformity. But sometimes we conform because we are apprehensive that the group will disapprove if we are deviant. Conformity, but greatly reduced.
Here we go.
Sometimes we go along with the group because what they say convinces us they are right.
Yeah, okay, so I'm sorry, I just want to confuse this. So informational conformity is when we go along because somebody's like pressured us and we're like, oh yeah, I guess you're actually right. Oh, you've convinced me of your opinion. Now I'll agree. But sometimes we agree just because of the pressure that person's putting on us, and it might not have convinced us at all. So in the type that it does convince us, we call that informational conformity.
This is called informational conformity. But sometimes we conform because we are apprehensive that the group will disapprove if we are deviant. This is called normative conformity. The strength of the normative factor is shown in another variation carried out by Asch.
It's normal.
In this variation, the subject is told that because he had arrived late, he would have to write his answers.
Okay, so now this is a fascinating third experimental condition, and this is almost done, but so now the experimental condition is you don't have to say it out loud, you can write it down. So there's less public display of your answer. Does that reduce conformity? We're going to see it has a major effect.
Subjects in this private response experiment are exposed to the same amount of misleading information as other subjects, but they are immune from any possible criticism by the group.
One.
And this enormously reduces the pressure to conform.
Enormously.
Conformity drops by 2/3.
By 2/3.
Asch's experiment is a classic. It reveals how people will deny what they see and submit to group pressure. It allows us not only to observe conformity, but to study the conditions that increase or reduce its occurrence.
Cheers, my friend.